ever being discussed. We also had the PWD and the LGBT chapter. Initially, it was more around, how do we identify communities? How do we identify platforms in terms of ensuring that we're being given a fair opportunity to this segment? But over a period of time, what we realized, beginning of 2018, we kind of even celebrated a month when the act was decriminalized. And the reason to it is over a 3-year period when we were kind of building on policies, systems, to see about how inclusive are we in a local context and as well as from a global context. Nothing much was actually changing, because what's actually a measure of success? Is your measure of success that more individuals kind of come out and declare themselves, or is your measure of success creating awareness, sensitization, and creating an inclusive workplace, which is going to ensure productivity at the end of the day? So with this dilemma, we stuck onto the latter part of the segment. We kind of said it needs to be an inward-out approach. We had a business case created globally, where a very detailed study was conducted of a global workforce, which spans a little over 88,000 staff. We identified, it was an external partner who helped us with the study. It's not an actual little aggregate of the numbers which I'm going to share with you, and it's confidential to this particular group. So little over about 6,500 were identified of belonging to this community. And then we were seeing about what are the policies attached to it in terms of, majority of the policies, I would say L, G, B, and Q is a very different segment compared to the T. Is something which I would make it very clear, because in terms of physical impression, appearance, character, what you're able to kind of identify and call out and discriminate is very different from physical appearance itself calling that out. So we had to be clear that, every single time we just call it as an LGBTQ week or an LGBTQ month, we kind of dissected it and we wanted to focus on specific populations. And what we started doing was not kind of creating a huge hoo-ha about saying that, this is going to be probably a lesbian or a gay week or a bisexual week, but rather more focusing on line leaders kind of taking that accountability in terms of coming down, attending the sensitization session for sure, because there are two things which you need to keep in mind here. One is, acceptance as an individual, then acceptance as an employee of the organization in terms of what's in line with your cultural values. And the latter part is very difficult, as most of you recognize, a lot of your individual values need not necessarily correlate with your organization values. And, that's where we kind of felt a lot of time. And I can probably say that, right now, the place where we are in terms of the sensitization, and I can probably share more details. I don't want to kind of eat up too much time over the call, but the sensitization bit in terms of the practices which we put in was something which we're able to visibly see results, because we have something called as an ally network. Or we're about little close to 14,000 staff in India, over 14 business lines, and little over 1,000 of them are already a part of this network. The reason, the prime rationale behind this network is not about members from this community being a part of the network. It's more about staff kind of taking that particular badge of honor. So we have a badge, we have a logo which we've created. And they being called as an ally more in terms of identifying themselves as a safe space to speak. They are individuals in a network who have absolute knowledge, objective knowledge of what this space is, how this community, breaking a lot of perceptions, notions, and also about educating line leaders, staff, and anybody who is feeling comfortable to talk about discrimination or bullying in workplace practices being coming in. And our measure of success is more about, like I said earlier, it's about that inclusive workplace, and a measure of success is more about how many people joined the network. When we started, it was about 12. And like I told you, in a little over 24 months, you're looking at a figure of 1,000. So that's a measure of success, what we would say, and the number of people kind of interacting with them, and the kind of sensitization and the learnings which we get through those interactions in terms of how it translates back into policy. So I will probably leave it at that, and happy to get any views.
Yeah, I think that I'm sure, Arvind. I mean, it's definitely not easy when you start with something, an exercise like this. And I'm not surprised when you said that, it wasn't an easy journey at all. And in fact, the more, I'm sure you're still not yet reached to the level that was expected overall per se as well. But yeah, definitely good insights, some of the good insights in terms of how it was divided and, how there was specific, probably who had come across and how you made it as notion to ensure breaking that notion, which is so critical and important, and it's so difficult as well, right? I mean, that's the biggest toughest job, I think. So that, and how to, and measure of success, I think, making it as an inclusive workplace and making the how many number of workforce have joined is one of the, definitely a good factor to be acknowledging the fact that, okay, for all the hard work which is done, whether there is result which has been out or not, right? So yes, well said. So okay, great. Anyone else who would want to share some of the specific policies probably around this, which is there in, um, before we really jump on to the other hiring specifics? Anupam. Yes, Anupam.
So just like to pitch in here because in Tivo also like we started looking into very recently. It's not like and when I was eBay PayPal, yes, we looked into this a little bit deeper around 5.5, 6 years back, especially in the US. But in Tivo also we started doing this at around a year and a half back. We started doing that, and uh, so the thing is like the it's a good like a lot of things have been covered by Arvind. Just to add on top of that, so the it's not it's a couple of things that we have kept in mind while approaching this problem. The first is the intent, and second is like how we can have our people leaders accepting this particular fact, right? And the third is the most important thing. We can plan everything, we can bring everything, but if you're not able to create the right and safe workplace and work environment for them, it's not going to work out in the long run. So we are losing trust from a diversity perspective, right? It's like for any diversity for that reason, right? So a couple of times we tried in different ways, but it didn't work it out because there was no support, intent to, and there's no acceptance from the leadership team. I'm just talking about leadership team. I'm not just referring to at the CEO, CXO, and the VP level, but also at the closer hiring manager, tech lead level also, right? The people who are responsible for at least one person in the team. So, what we have done in terms of policy to ensure, like how we can close that discrimination, how we can make sure, like people are not hesitant being in this community and disclosing that fact, right? So our policies are more around that. So protecting their right doesn't matter, right? Who you are, but as an employee, your rights are protected. Company value you the way you are, right? And there's no discrimination made for any of the things just because you belong to certain community, right? So the lot of policies, and we had a lot of discussion brainstorm the global team, and I just took this initiative forward with you and just we created that kind of policies, and I think it is working out well. It was not just in India, but I implemented that policy across all the international region what I'm managing across 10 countries. The bigger problem I had the acceptance wise, like culturally acceptance wise, in a couple of Southeast Asian countries. But in Europe, like it was well accepted. Only few Southeast Asian that I could see Arvind is smiling. So there are only few Southeast Asian countries where I could see that problem. Otherwise, I think it was well accepted. So at any point of time, people should learn. And as a leader, we should have an ability to find the ways to make them learn. This is what it is, and this is how it should be accepted, right? So a lot of effort has gone into just make sure people acceptance in the company and to create that safe workplace for them so that they can be successful too.
Right. I think, thanks Anupam for adding that. I think one thing is which is coming out constant is, right. I mean, no acceptance or difficulty in phasing in convincing, be it the leadership team or be the small team, right? Be it a hiring manager or anyone, to how do we bring that cultural acceptance between them, right? And I think Arvind and Anupam, both of you, right? I mean, when you were talking about it, it was primarily the challenges that we had seen it, right? So I am and probably because of this acceptance is one of the reasons why probably this gap of is still increasing, right? Probably we are not able to bridge that gap as quickly as possible compared to any other initiatives, for this particular topic, right? So with that, I definitely want to also hear, if there were any, failure stories probably that we had seen, and probably how you overcome that failure stories in terms of the acceptance. If anyone have done that, probably that would be a good input for others to pick in and act on in our coming days, right? So anyone who wants to talk about your failure stories, which you been able to probably convert it, or you still struggling from one aspect perspective, and we can keep that in mind. The others can definitely keep that in mind when they are charting their policy or charting their plan or initiatives. Anyone who can pitch in?
Okay, if no one, then I'll.
Oh yeah, please,
Even
Anupam.
I'm
Yeah.
okay. I have enough and more to write a book.
Probably you can add in, probably not a book, probably my only intent was, right, because see, the failure is something which is not all of us always talk about it as well, but it's so important, right? Unless we really know what the failure is, you would not be able to build on it, because in the beginning, if you start doing any new initiative, right, all of us will end up seeing the same challenges, probably because it's a cultural shift, it's a mind change, right? It is a total change in the system ecosystem that you're trying to build in, right? And otherwise this should have not been so difficult. We are talking about diversity and inclusion, I think, from day and ages now. All of us are doing this initiative or trying to contribute to this initiative from at least 3-4 years by now, right? But have we reached to a certain extent? Not really. And that's why I thought we should really talk on some of that, at least if not all. Probably Arvind and Anupam, probably 1 or 2 points, and then we'll move on.
Anupam, you want to go ahead?
Yes, please.
You can go, Arvind. I'll just wait for you to
All
finish.
right. Okay. So I think this was a story back in 2015. When we, like I mentioned, we put the business case together. We were having conversations. This was the same time, both the chapters, both the PWD and the LGBT chapter was kind of taking shape, I would say. So like most of you have had conversations with your business in terms of, like we say, it's an inward out approach, how inclusive, we always keep saying that, awareness is the, first step towards inclusion, because a lot of your perception and, biases kind of get busted there. So back then, when just like we wanted to start small, we didn't want to have a huge chapter in terms of going big bang here. We wanted to at least look at associate functions. We want to kind of create small success stories instead of going big. So we kind of identified periphery functions, the admin facilities to begin with. And we were working with one of the foundations outside to identify individuals, what kind of capabilities they bring in. And we kind of first got a transgender hire in for a receptionist role. And within the face of the company, where most of your clients come in, your customers, your candidates, we have a lovely reception, which depicts the kind of work which we do as well. And you can only imagine in terms of what would have been my conversation with the facilities manager would have been like, because for somebody who gets rated on experience, for somebody who gets rated on, how does your candidates feel about the look and feel, the entire ambience of the environment. And then, the notion of getting a transgender in. Probably this conversation started off early Feb. And by the time we knew this was an individual who had the right set of capabilities, who was probably working in NGOs for a little over about 6.5 years, a person who had already identified themselves in the community, been in the corporate space for about 7 years, worked in about 3 different states, amazing communication skills. So everything which you would ideally have in a job description, even for that role, was available in this individual. When we started off picking this conversation, I still remember the first boardroom meeting or the first meeting of the chapter when we had different business partners in. It was just eyebrows raised, and it was like, now what are we trying to do here? Why can't we look at other functions? Why, especially friend-facing kind of? So gave them a lot of logic points in terms of telling them that it's more the capability. We are being true to our equal opportunity employer, inclusive environment workspace. Why don't you give it a shot? First step was kind of meeting the individual and conducting an assessment, for which the managers agreed. They went ahead with the assessment. Was apparently, and what we did was, during the assessment, we didn't want to make this an assessment exclusive. That itself was discrimination. We ensured that we had about 3 candidates, 2 of the individuals who would ideally applied in the job bucket in a normal scenario, and then we had this individual also come in for the assessment. 2 of the individuals kind of cut it to very close, along with the transgender person. The hiring manager said, okay, let me at least give it a shot. I'm happy with the capabilities which is being brought to the table. The individual started, and then this goes back to what me and Anupam were saying. You can do so much in terms of ensuring the person comes through the door, and this applies across whatever gender metrics you track. And then started because I'll be very honest, the sensitization around that immediate team was the one which we are focusing on, but the sensitization around the whole staff is something which we missed out on. What this led to is, obviously discriminatory looks, the mannerisms in which you speak to an individual, and inevitably we had to kind of let go of that individual in about 4 months' time. We tried everything possible, but beyond a point, it was, the center wasn't yet mature enough in terms of accepting that individual in. And more than kind of putting, we took the kind of blame on ourselves rather than pointing it towards anybody else. And we said, we need to kind of, build more awareness. If in case you want to even share it as a success story later on. First, in terms of inward looking, ensure your staff, your line leaders have the mentality in the right place, before you kind of go ahead directly with treating as a hiring metric. And we strictly follow it till today. We don't see it as targets, we see it as making careers. So that's one point which we are very, very clear.
Wonderful. I think definitely a very good learning and good example, Arvind. I'm really happy that you really shared that. I'm sure all of us on the call would want to agree on that, because I think most of us probably miss out the same thing, right? Sensitization of immediate team is something so much we focus that we end up losing out that, yes, it's not only about the immediate team, but you have to really look at holistically the whole organization and the other team. So very well said. Great. So let's move on to the next one. With that, right, I mean, since we are talking about the sensitization and so on, what probably some of the specific, digital campaigns or the approaches that, any of you have followed in your organizations or are looking to follow in the organization that you think we could talk about and benefit our group here?
So Smita, I'll try to put across a few points what Wipro has been doing, and it has done in the past as well. Okay. So first thing is, when we say we need to inculcate the habit of accepting diversity kind of people, LGBT kind of people. So one is that Wipro has kind of modified its resume application system, where we will include a gender neutral language in the application system. That's one thing. And when we are talking about the Pride Month, which is June is the Pride Month. So every year in June, what we do is that when we celebrate it as a Pride Month, once we had collaborated with an organization in Chennai, the name is Periphery. And that's a Chennai-based startup that helps the transgendered community with entrepreneurial and employment opportunities. So Wipro had kind of set up one of the kind of a celebration in its campus, one of the campuses. And the feedback was very overwhelming, where the individuals who belong to the LGBT community, they were elated that the organization is thinking about and openly talking about the community. And the people who had come in and participated, they started talking more within their community, their relatives, their friends, saying that, okay, that is the kind of an organization which is kind of creating a more inclusive workspace. Okay, so that one thing we have done. And kind of online quiz series that has been aimed at raising the awareness on the inclusion of LGBTQ community, and thereby we eliminate the unconscious bias that we have, because see, today what happens is most of our workforce in most of the services companies also, if it will happen, they work out of the client locations, and we need to be very openly, we should be able to communicate with the client saying that, okay, so and so person is going to come and work for you in your campus. So that conscious and unconscious bias might be there, which we have been able to kind of get a pulse of it by creating an online quiz where we know that, okay, how they are reacting to that quiz, and enabling the employees to self-identify themselves as LGBT in the internal HR system. So we have kind of, so that they may want to change their name, they may want to have a new pronoun for themselves. So that is one which we have done, and obviously gender neutral restrooms. This is something that Wipro has added to its kind of a foray. And one important thing that what I have seen, and it is there, especially in our Wipro campuses where we have the guest houses, especially talking about women employees and the LGBT community. We try to give them a separate space. When we say a separate space, it is like the ground floor will be kind of reserved, and the first floor or the second floor or the third floor will be for the men. Okay. So thereby we kind of, okay, give them some kind of a special space for them to kind of be themselves. Okay. And obviously very much important is in terms of the security or whatever, that at times women employees will think about it. There is a counseling program also that we have, which we call as a Mitr. It is a 24/7 accessible counseling forum where we have mentors, and anybody can dial into that number or write an email, and they will immediately get a call in terms of counseling.
Okay, great. I think these are some of the doable exercise or initiatives for sure, right? I mean, yeah. I think one for sure which we can start off with is probably the screening application system, like you rightly said, the gender neutralization. All of us being the TA leaders, the first and foremost thing that we can definitely include is that part of it, right? And normalization of the job descriptions, right? Just to ensure there is no biases being shown out there. So that's one part of it, which definitely we could start off with saying, but some good inputs definitely, Rajat. Anyone else who would want to add in before, probably I would definitely share some insights which I got in when I was doing my learning, like I said. Anyone who would want to pitch in here?
Yeah, Sita, this is Sweetie here, and yes, I Sweetie. Represent Aspect Software, and I've been working in the space of belonging, which is, I guess, couple of steps or notches of acceptance of inclusion and beyond. To the great points that we heard from what the Wipro community is contributing, I think there is one other thing that I have implemented working through the few organizations, which was Pega Systems until last year, and CenturyLink Technologies prior to that, was LGBT cover as part of your general medical insurance coverage, in the sense, trying to have like therapies for hormone replacement, coverage for medical reconstructive surgical procedures. These coverages, I think, came into action about 4 or 5 years ago, and there were companies who were called as pioneers to have been implementing it. And I can still remember, I guess, Flipkart was somebody who came in quite early in the game. So I think one of the things which goes back to the fundamental of the discussion we started on acceptance and building awareness is insurance is one particular benefit, which is like a horizontal cutting through benefit across any organization, and it is almost like a must-have. So and it has a reach to everybody. So when we do a town hall and we call across that we have a policy which is LGBTQ friendly policy, and this is what the policy covers, we try to look at the footfalls of the policy reads, quizzes, assessment, and we realize that it helped us to if not completely remove an unconscious bias, but at least, the whole acceptance of the fact that just like you have a cataract surgery or a knee replacement, you also have something called as an LGBT cover, which is beyond, the whole maternity, post-maternity, and because diversity to a great extent has been gender, especially in the product world I come from. So I think that's one area that I strongly feel very passionate about bringing on. And I think Rajat mentioned, having your job descriptions very clearly calling out what does an equal opportunity mean, to giving the opportunity of not disclosing your gender is also something that we have. I have done through various support of the organizations and teams that I have worked.
Great input, Sweetie. In fact, I think, touching through medical insurance is, it's, I think, very close to any individual and organization. I'm sure with that initiative, not only that community, the other folks as well would have felt belonging, of sense of belongingness in and the inclusion part of the organization, right? You would have felt that, okay, I belong to this organization, and this is the organization who's really doing an extra work for that. So I think that is a great input, and we can definitely look at in some of our organization next time when we negotiate with our insurance vendor, probably. So that's one thing we could do. Anyone else would want to add in here? Anything different that they have done it in their organizations? Otherwise, we can probably.
So this is Vachaspati here. I represent GE India Technology Center, and I just thought to just talk about a couple of special things that we have done specifically for the LGBTQ community on the diversity part. While I think the inputs which Wipro gave, the inputs which further came, they both we have already done all of this in the organization. But one specific area which we find the most challenging, and that's where we have seen a constant challenge, which is that while we would want to increase diversity in the organization, what most of the time we end up forgetting is about inclusion. And unless and until you create a inclusive workplace, unless and until we are ourselves inclusive in our behaviors, we would not end up actually making a real difference on the ground. So what we did was we went about doing a survey of people. We called a radio jockey, and during the lunch hours in the cafeteria, we went about just asking people. Just to tell a story, that was one initiative which we did. The other initiative which we did was we told them a story, and gender roles were mixed, and wherein we checked people's responses, and we found that more often than not, people would actually associate a particular person, like say a doctor with a male. A nurse with a female. They would not be open inherently to understand that there could be different gender roles. There could be people who could be playing different sort of gender roles, including the third gender, right? Which basically talked about the kind of unconscious bias which exists in all of us, and this unconscious bias is pervasive. We have done trainings about it. In terms of making sure that people can actually try and remove this unconscious bias. But what we have realized is that while this unconscious bias cannot go away, because it is essentially to do with the way that we are brought up, the way that we have always been taught to think. What is most important is to be aware of it. And as long as people are aware about it, that yes, there is an unconscious bias which exists, then that's something each individuals will actually try and do something about it, and that has actually yielded good results for us. The other piece also which we did was we did role plays of for example, how do we do a meeting, right? Our our meetings, when we are actually, so today, for example, we have a forum of, TA leaders all across. And each of us is representing a different organization, a different thought process, probably, different educational backgrounds, different experience backgrounds. Are we inclusive enough to have everybody's viewpoint taken into account, allow everybody to actually, talk and, give due importance to it? So we did role plays around it. We recorded certain employee meetings, the way that the meetings get conducted, the way that, people would cross talk, the way people would actually start talking their own language, or sometimes, if it's a physical meeting and there's somebody who is on Skype, would forget about taking any kind of inputs, insights from that particular person. And that's something which we showed across to all our employees. Shared it across on mails. We have now actually included those videos actually as part of our induction day. In fact, to showcase, that this is the kind of culture that we want to foster, within GE Data Technology Center. And that has actually, yielded very, 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 very strong results on specifically the inclusion front. Because, and it's our firm belief that, okay, without inclusion, you cannot really, you can only chase numbers, but you can't really build a diverse organization.
Well said. I think some great inputs actually. I totally agree. So these are the ways which really opens mind of others as well, right? Think of a role play coming up, doing a radio jockey sort of it. And I totally agree that, unconscious bias, it's not easy to go away, right? Because everyone, all of us have come up, like you rightly said, with different mindsets, with different culture, background. And we, especially in our country, it is changing, but it's definitely taking time to change. So I think these were some of the great inputs which came through, which we can probably look at in our case as well. When we speak on that, right? So being in TAs and hiring, right? I'm sure some of us in the group definitely would want to probably know when these are something from a broad organization perspective that we could do, what were some of the specific initiatives that we have driven for sensitizing our hiring managers, and what approaches did we follow? Any inputs on that who want to talk about, so that, the others can get benefit?
I can.
Vishwa, okay, great, Anupam. You can start, and probably Vishwa, you could also talk about some of that specific initiatives I think you had run, right? I think during one of our discussions, I remember you saying some specific activities that you had run. Probably you could talk on those as well.
Vishwa, you are mute.
Anupam, you can start.
Thanks, Anupam. So I think when we started off to look at the larger agenda of diversity, it was in my previous organization that I was talking about. We had this interesting issue that before even looking at LGBT, can we start looking at diversity, right? In terms of gender, and then PWD, and then generation. So I was very fortunate to kind of create those three interventions, which is PWD and generation and gender diversity, and co-coined a program called as Glide, which was about to hire women talent who are on break. And through that process, when we started looking at it, and then we were always looking forward for LGBT, then we did some surveys. And interesting part that we also did is that we looked at some of the databases that came into our ATS, where people did not disclose their gender, right? And we started understanding the pattern of those people to see whether they could be suitable for us. And then interestingly, that was the same time when we started also to look at this sensitization session. Luckily, we had a great leader who had a good gender inclusivity kind of a thing. We were about to kind of look at or launch a program. By then, actually, I had to join another company. But I have got news that these guys have started doing it, and then they're seeing some good results there. So good amount of sensitization work, and I think we were talking to 3 different partners at any given point in time to ensure that the output which was coming out is world class, because it was just not a number game. We didn't want to show some numbers to the community in the industry that we are in. It was for our own good that we see that there is a community available, and we would want to kind of look at how it helps there. But yes, I think that was a journey which really was cherished upon, and then I'm seeing a great amount of response today in the industry. One other thing that I am also seeing that in the current scheme of things is there are some companies who are actually training these people, and if you can actually work with them to see how we can actually enable the employment, that would be a great help to the community.
Great, Vishwa. Anupam, you want to add in on the specific hiring manager? How do we, probably provide?
Yes, there have been a couple of very interesting scenarios in the past, like as Arvind was mentioning, like he presented some CVs and there was kind of resistance from the hiring manager whether to take it or not to take it. So there have been such incidents happen, like there's always in the back of some mind. See, the thing is, it's a cultural thing, like what we have not seen in the past, like many 100 years. Now we have to change ourselves, and a few things have started changing last couple of years. It will take its own sweet time to change. So from the hiring manager perspective, what we have done, we have a specific training on diversity inclusion for the hiring managers, all the leaders. We have a special video and programs created for all the employees from the LGBTQ perspective, from the similar diversity perspective. So we have created a lot more those programs. We have a lot more. We have created some program which is encouraging those things, which is like a special reward program for employee referrals, right? Like how to get those kind of people in, right? Irrespective, like what preferences an individual has in life, irrespective of that, if somebody has a right skill, how to promote that idea. I still remember like the first time when we started talking in this company around 1.5 years back or 2 years back, then people like were not taking it very seriously. And that time, like we have come up with some posters. That was, I think, a big mistake, I would say. It was a very simple poster and not much of the details. We tried creating awareness through that. Then we realized like it's not going to change in with the posters. We'll do something differently, right? So then we had to bring everyone in team. We start talking about some success stories from these communities, how they have developed themselves. Either it could be a Thailand boxer Pernia, or it could be anyone else, right? How they have struggled in life and how they have achieved those success, that name in life, right? So we have done that. And then what we have done afterwards, so this has been like whenever we create those awareness, it's happening. So what we have done in every orientation we have on a monthly and bi-weekly basis, right? So with the new hire orientation, we added the session about a diversity inclusion. So that whatever organization the new hires are coming from, they should know what TIVO values and TIVO cultures are. Right? How do we stick to that? Right? So we have started just the sense of inclusion. We started bringing in the picture just to make sure people understand the importance of this and how to create that environment. So every step, so whatever the touch points we have as a recruiter, right? So I started pitching in across the places, like how people keep sensing, okay, fine, this is the TIVO policy, this is the TIVO mindset, this is how TIVO value the employees, this is how TIVO believe in diversity inclusion, right? So this is some of the things what we have done, like a special reward, frequent training, a special program and dedicated training for all the leaders, hiring managers that we have created and conducted with them. And then it's a kind of a questionnaire. So we have also done, see, even after training, right, there people are in training, like we know, right, like how much people are attentive in most of the trainings. If they have believed something in mind, if they have taken something in mind, okay, fine, this is not going to work for me. So whatever training you give is not going to work out for them. So to deal with those people, it's very important to identify those leaders and hiring managers, how to get it done. So we have a psychological survey, what we have conducted through some specialists, so that we get to know the mindset of people, how they are looking for, right? So putting an extra effort, categorizing, drawing a line between like who's a good hiring manager and not so good hiring improvement areas and those things. We start doing a lot of those stuff just to deal with this problem. I think it's still a long way to go. And when a hiring manager comes back and say, technical abilities were not as expected. So as a TA function, we do not have much to say beyond that. And we can go ahead and like we can talk in technical term as well, but definitely if people are not willing to hire, they find a ways of doing that. Because it's a decision of the business. So now it becomes another important point here. As a TA leader, how do we drive these communication, these good behaviors, and these messages from the top to down, so that they have those things communicated from their own leaders in the way we want. Right? Some of these things I have seen have helped me a lot, and slowly and eventually that kind of mindset is changing, but still I think it's a long way to go.
Agree, Anupam. I think definitely the one of the key takeaways is posters. I mean, any initiative that we start, we first try to print some posters, and we first try to do some advertisement around it. And I totally agree with you that just putting only the posters is not going to give us a result, but working towards it to make sure if the messaging is going right to the people, to understand, right, or they started to feel part of it. Only then it starts getting the benefit of it. And I think I again agree on the fact that hiring managers, end of the day, they come back and tell you 100 reasons why you don't want to really hire someone. Smart in doing that. So Arvind, with the lot of work that you have done on the space, any specific snippet which probably what Anupam have not covered on the hiring manager approaches that you have done for hiring managers?
Yep. So one thing which we did specifically was, we strongly believe that leader of communities kind of pave way here. So it's a simple top-down approach in terms of first acceptance has to start on top, at the top. So what we kind of started doing was, this was probably about, we've been doing it for 3 years now, is, we work very closely with, Periphery, Solidarity. So these are specific communities, doing a great bit of work in the society towards the LGBTQ community. So we invite, very established players, talk about somebody who's transgender, who's an entrepreneur, with significant breakthroughs in the industry, somebody who is come out and identified them as gay or lesbian, who is still very successful in the technology industry. So we kind of invite them for a fishbowl exercise. What essentially happens is, let's be honest. So if today on the floor, I'm walking up to a leader and having a conversation saying, hey, are you in support of, are you going to be in support and being inclusive in terms of acting as an ally towards the LGBT community? Nobody's going to tell a no. So when you put them in a room and, and challenge, it's not more so in terms of cornering them, but in terms of basically bringing out certain perceptions or biases which they still may have, but not openly discussed. So what we started doing was, when these established individuals in the community were called upon, we had the leaders of community. It's a half a day kind of a workshop where they kind of start posing questions towards the leaders. So the same leaders who identify them as allies, who identify them as advocates towards this community. When I kind of ask you, saying, do you actually know what article or section 344 means? Do you know when exactly it was decriminalized? Do you know exactly how many people belong to this particular community? Or do you know to what contribution to the GDP we do in this particular space? Because it's largely still a hidden community, and you don't have direct correlation towards productivity, efficiency, and so on. So when these kind of challenges are posed, earlier Vishwa was mentioning a very interesting bit in terms of how we dissected PWD, LGBT, and generations. Then you try doing correlations, because generations and LGBT has a large part to play. So a large part of your previous generation leaders, leaders who are currently your CIOs, CTOs, have been brought up culturally in a very different setup. Okay, it depends on your education, depends on your exposure, but largely the Indian setup in terms of how we've all seen this community, because including me, a lot of notions were broken over the series of the last 7 years. When such exercises, a great deal of transformation, it's not like going for about 3 years and you come out with a new vision. But over a period of time, what happens is when you keep repeating values and how well it sits with the organization culture, it kind of ingrains into the leader. And then that's the starting step of acceptance form. And we've seen leaders, and I don't know, how many of you have been to our retail stations, especially to fuel up. But I've seen a large part of the PWD community and the LGBT community actually employed them. Okay, PWD is more visible, LGBT is not so visible. But what we do is, even with our network partners, we do this sensitization exercise, because that's a great area and an opportunity space in terms of giving back to the community, but not with sympathy, but with a really meaningful career.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, good input, Arvind. In fact, one thing that we are doing it here is, we have identified specific roles, including some roles in technology, very specific, and it's of course an approach. So it's been told that these roles will be only hired, with these category of resources, right? Now it is on. Probably you can wait for the time you need it to find that right candidate and the right skill, and ensure that you build that community or you build that resources to see how you can provide that pipeline there. But these roles will be only filled through that. So that was one initiative that we have done it, and we are definitely seeing a lot of juggles, because now hiring managers really cannot come back and tell you that, hey, I have this reasons to hire this resource, because we are giving you this reasons plus this candidates to evaluate. So that's what is happening currently. So that's one approach what we did. I think Reba has one asked a good question here, which I think we should just quickly touch upon. She says, are there any organizations who have conducted any programs for the community to remove any inhibitions that they may have or fear of acceptance among the broader community? Similar to programs some organizations conduct for women to rise up opportunity confidently. I think most of the organizations, we do programs, or rather, to rise for the opportunities of women. But yeah, good question. Is there any program that, some of you who have done a lot of work on the space have seen that you have removed because you thought, because of the fear from the community acceptance and so on? Arvind or Anupam, have you seen, or Jay, anyone,
Smita,
have you seen anything?
Yeah.
Yes, Jay.
I can share, with my past experience. Of course, currently at Blue Yonder, we're still taking baby steps. So I'm not going to talk about any specific policy and stuff like that. But my past experience with Salesforce, right? Probably, I think in this on this topic, Salesforce has done much more work, and whatever the new initiatives that we're talking about, right? That is one of the companies that I've seen who've gone over and above in this space. So with respect to these initiatives and stuff like that, right? So Salesforce has, unlike every company, there is an internal community. There's it's called Outforce. So basically, Outforce is responsible for people, who are all part of LGBT community, and also non-LGBT community people who want to voluntarily contribute for this success or a program, right? So one of the initiative or campaigns in that sense, in the month of June, right, as we all know, it is observed like a Pride Month. Every year there is something called Pride March, which organization, Salesforce does it, wherein people literally get onto the road and showcase what is the importance of LGBT community or diversity inclusion as a whole, plus literally do a Pride March and spread a message to the market or to the world that why this company cares about it. That's one of the initiatives that I've seen. And like Rajat was talking about, the helpline, right? Or those experts who are talking, really enabling, kind of putting up a helpline to talk about the experts, and people can anonymously, kind of call and get a solution for whatever the problem they're facing, whatever the information that they're looking at. Salesforce used to do it very, very proactively. Of course, with partners like, the Pride Circle. As we all know that, so the reality is diversity inclusion, we know it's overrated, this one. But as far as India is concerned, until recent times, diversity inclusion means the predominantly we all look at, and it's only gender. That's what we looked at. Wherein in US or in EMEA region, so on and so forth, it's much more beyond the gender diversity, like underrepresented minorities. We keep hearing these words, right? URMs and LGBT community, all of it. At Salesforce, very interestingly, right, internally, there is a person, who looks at as an organization, all organization wide. His role is called Chief Equality Officer. So Chief Equality Officer is responsible to oversee all these responsibilities and look at organization wise what is the percentage that we have, what are the initiatives, campaigns that are going on. Predominantly in US, you guys hear something called representation matters, kind of forums and events wherein companies go out with the existing workforce and with this community called Outforce, really go and represent and talk about what's really is happening inside the company for this community and what are all the opportunities out there. Which we've started seeing in India too in the recent past, right? I think just last year I attended my first event with this Pride Circle called Rise. More and more, we're seeing this kind of a community coming along. So in India, it is trying to catch up. I would say that the scope is increasing for especially not only TA or this initiative should be associated directly with the people organization. Unless we see, this is like is there in the DNA of the company for most of the leaders or managers. It should not become just a checkpoint. We know diversity, we're moving beyond the gender, this one, but in my perspective, we also should look at, for us to in recruiting, every organization look at what is the mapping that we should be able to do for any candidate that for that matter. As long as we identify this community, as long as we identify that total addressable market, okay, in this community, where can I go and find what kind of a skill set is available? How do I come and match with it? Then hiring managers will not have a choice. Rather, they should look at the most qualified candidate on the table, regardless of gender, background, community, whatever it is, which we've started seeing. So these are some of the experience that I've seen and my perspective of where India is heading in terms of adoption, or even looking at our understanding what is this diversity inclusion underneath LGBT community and underrepresented minority and so on and so forth.
Well said, Jay. I think I can relate it to quite a bit. We are actually doing some good job in EY from diversity and inclusion as a whole. And I can definitely relate to a lot of things that you said, right? One thing is definitely on, I like that idea. I'm sure a lot of us probably would have liked that idea of Pride March and probably want to do something like that in their organization as well, right? Counseling is something which is very common, I think, these days with all the organizations that they're trying to do, which is very easy to inculcate as well with all this one-to-one help and so on, available, right? And we being TA leaders, definitely we can propose across these suggestions to our managements to include. One thing is, like you rightly said, I think identifying that pool of people available, right? And how do we really get source that people from, how do we really approach that community or that people, right? So from an EY perspective, right, we definitely have tied up with a couple of agencies who are helping us to map these candidates specifically and, help us train, train and deploy model is something which we are looking at it. We are also looking at tapping the specific community and then bringing them on board. So those are some of the initiatives that we are internally looking at it. But anything that any of you have done it or have heard that organizations are doing it, other than only taking support of these agencies to start help with? Or you think currently the current state that we are at, it's best to take the support of the agencies to start with? Oh, Manjula, I think I asked that question now, and let's hear from our folks here. Yes, please.
Again, my 2 cents, right? Yeah. Definitely to start with, as far as India is concerned, the way like we are adopting this, right? To start with, we have to take help of our outreach partners, because if you look at the talent community itself, it's not huge. Although there is a community, nobody knows what is the skill set that they bring onto the table, right? One side, it is identifying. The other side, we also should look at what are, for example, is government doing any initiatives or any of these outreach partners? As you said, the train and deploy model, fabulous, because they could be roles, right? End of the day, we don't know what is the cut that we have in our LGBT community. How many of them are technically qualified? How many of them bring in non-technical skill sets to the table, which can be looked at purely from a mapping perspective. I think I go back to my oldest one, right? Role versus mapping. We know that they may not bring in 100%, but we can take a sample set of we can look at the sample set of hiring, maybe the way you all do your return ship, or women who are on a career break and stuff like that. We could take an initiative at our level, look at some of the stuff, some of the smallest roles, or strategic roles as well. Look at a sample set of doing some 3 to 6 months internship, really trialing out these pilot programs and see what is the result it's going to fetch for us. Are they able to have a voice on the table? What are the real-time challenges on ground? Adaptability, inclusive environment, all of it. We have to learn through our trial and errors in the I would say in the phase that we are moving ahead from on this particular topic in organizations.
Great, Jay. I think 2 cents of mine as well to add in, because I didn't really complete, I felt last time. So what we're really doing is there are 4 sources that we're looking at, okay, on this space specifically. One is agencies, of course, like we spoke. Second is NGOs, right? So there are, when I say difference between both, is there are specific agencies who are into this job, right? Like the Enable India, Gift Enabled, and Urja, and so on, who we have tied up with and we are looking at working with. Then we have tied up with specific NGOs who have this group of people there. The third pool that we are looking at is campus, right? Now, surprisingly, in campus as well, we could tap these candidates, which was not, I wasn't really sure this until I joined EY. And I got to know from EY that yes, there is a pool. If we ask specific colleges, they are more than willing to give us now, which means India is definitely progressing on that thought. And, we can look at that as one factor as well. And the fourth aspect that we're looking at is gig now, right? What is gig now in EY term is contractors, right? So we are not really looking at them hiring as a full-time alone, but there are few of them who wants to try and come and join as a first few months of projects per se, like internship, what Jay mentioned. We hire them as contractors, and if then they want to continue as a full-time, we make them an offer. If not, they can support us for the longer time they want to look at. So as a contractor model, right? So these are 4 channels, Manjula, that we are looking at in EY to add on. Anyone would want to add on to this factor? Else, probably in the interest of time, we can move on quickly on one of my last questions, which I thought is also important.
Yes, Smita. So just to specifically answer to Manjula's question here. So if you look at the different meetups groups, so there are a lot of meetups groups in Bangalore, in India, like there are meetups groups about LGBTQ meetups groups, the lesbian groups. A lot of other groups are there, which are already existing, and they have more than 1,000, 2,000 people there in each group. So if you go to those meetups group is the best way to promote. We started doing recently, a couple of months back, promoting and those things, and we have seen some good responses. So we are getting good skilled people there. Definitely we can take the route of the vendors and everything, but they also go to the same groups, targeting the same groups who are made for those people, right? So the one option, you can look at those meetups groups, and also like it's a good way to market yourself, like how as a company, positively looking at including this community as a part of the organization, right? So this kind of promotion is really required. So you can look at some of those things that will help.
Great. I think that 2 cents was definitely a value add, Anupam.
Yes, one more. I'm sorry to
Please go ahead, Arvind. This is an important topic.
Now, just on what Jay was mentioning, that's extremely valid, because it's always about supply versus capability, what's available out there. Majority of the challenge in terms of convincing hiring managers always has been how competitive is this particular segment? What's the kind of qualifications associated with this particular segment? Do we have a sense of it? Just like how you have a Naukri where you do a search just for finding gender diverse, it's only women candidates. And it's progressively improved for the PWD bit, but it's still at a very nascent stage for this particular community. Something which we are looking at, it's been in the planning stage for about 3-4 months, is rather than waiting for an immediate solution, all of us would love to see a solution out there saying, yes, trained set of individuals match into technology skills, easier way to convince. A way of giving back to the community is also, we all work a lot with this academia industry collaboration in terms of identifying early, in terms of seeing about what skills are employable, And I work very closely with about 3 or 4 institutes in terms of telling these are shell specific tech skills, which I want you to kind of introduce you to your, third year, fourth year, second year, third year students early for them to get trained on. And I'm pretty sure, if Simon was here, Simon will talk about what Salesforce is doing. But the same thing, what we're trying to do is taking into this community. So, and the specific bit in LGBT, we're starting with transgender community. We are trying to see, what is the population size, working with a couple of partners to see even educated, and then to give them a platform to kind of train. You guys have all heard about Enable in terms of the wonderful work which they do for the PWD candidates in terms of giving them a training platform, making them employable. And that is something which we are trying to do, especially for the transgender community as a start. The reason why we are taking out T out of the whole group is also this is probably one of the very unfairly represented minorities as well. And we want to kind of begin with them. So it's still on the cards. Very happy to and open for hearing inputs from you in terms of how we can take it forward as well. So that's something which we are doing currently. So, thanks.
Lovely. Thanks, Arvind. That's definitely a good input. Great. So with that, I think we really spoke about quite a bit of interesting and important topics here. I would also want to be touching upon on the measures, right? I remember, Arvind, you, in fact, during the first discussion, right, you mentioned about the measure that you had it, right, by increasing the number of hires in your system, right? That was one of the way of measuring. Right. But I think it is also important for us to understand, right, how do we really measure diversity and inclusion in our organization? Of course, women diversity is very easy to measure, right? I mean, that's something I think all of us do it as well, right? But other than that, what are the other tangible, visible, measures or tracking that any of you are doing or have developed that we want to talk about? Because when we spoke all this, I think it's important to talk about that as well, so that it becomes a whole package. Open to the forum.
Hi, Smita.
Yes, Jay.
Some of the basic and easy measures first we can start looking at is the top of the funnel, the kind of applications that are coming into the open roles. To do that, certainly there has to be an awareness and there has to be the campaign, or there has to be a marketing element of it, right? The first measure has to be, are we able to kind of differentiate these top of the funnel applications? Are we even receiving those applications? That could be, one of the measure. And as we move forward, right, at least the matured organizations would look at the way we now assess what is our work population diversity, what is the population diversity cut at a leadership level, and so on and so forth. That has to get extended in terms of hiring percentage cut, and then the population of these different workforces, which is just beyond the gender diversity. So those are some of the known and measurable this one. But for me, what is important is now if you look at most of the company websites, while making an application, you will see a choice, right? Male, female, and not prefer to disclose and stuff like that. That has to be the first step for people to come forward and give them a freedom of choice to say whether they want to disclose, they don't want to disclose. We need to start looking at, are we able to kind of build that pipeline? Are we able to bring those people to as an application, and which in turn can be converted to opportunity conversations?
Absolutely, Jay. I think very agreed. I think another aspect to look at is also the retention percentage, right? How we really retaining the people whom we are, hiring or manage to hire, right? So on that, anyone else who would want to add on to the measuring topic, and probably, what are our approaches or efforts to help them grow inside once we hire?
Right, Smita, sweetie, once again here, and I just want to play a little bit of a black sheep in the discussion. I know there are a lot of TA leaders. I think measures of any program possibly starts with TA, and TA is very much objective because you talk of numbers, percentage, population. But when we move into the next level of contribution factor, success factor, and performance, that is where some of these programs, unfortunately, the purpose gets a little defeated or falls flat. I would want to maybe not name an organization, but share one of the roadblocks when we try to define a measure of the success of hire. While pool availability, talent availability, and the funneling was a very objective measure, but when we took it to the next level and we started with fundamentally on performance, and then role clarity, and finally performance over a period of say 18 months to 24 months, I could fundamentally see that hiring managers coming back with a certain amount of not exactly a bias, but it is more about they thinking that there could have been um, maybe a better talent replaced, which has higher sustainability, and hence they would want to limit hiring in the inclusion space just by the mere including an inclusion hire. If you are understanding what I'm trying to say, because I think many times in a product development, R&D, and engineering kind of environment, even if it is testing and quality testing kind of quality assurance kind of roles, I've seen leaders often come back questioning that the pool of talent, does it come with a certain amount of healthy compromises? What is the scope of growth of the individuals? And I'm talking for both PWD and inclusion hiring. So that's where this measure is again the same one lens fitting all, right? It is for people who are not also coming from certain sectors, which under inverted commas, I would call it as minority. So clearly people want to say that when you might get something like a very popular in India, like a reservation when you're getting a job, but we don't want to really treat you after you come inside the organization with the same lens. We want to kind of give you an equal opportunity from resources, training, and your performance. So I have not been able to crack this. And often I go back telling leaders that we need to look at it in a very different scope. But heart in heart, I also manage HR for a long time beyond TA. And I know that I would also want to look at it in the same measure of performance and contribution to the organization. So it's any thoughts, any ideas, any of you have some breakthroughs, yeah, it will be great to listen.
I think it's a very valid point, Sweetie, what you raised. And yes, I have been observing the same kind of challenges. I think some of the things which has helped, like after somebody getting the system, it's about the maintenance, like how do we maintain, retain, and give us equal opportunity going forward. So there have been like those surveys what we do on it's not an annual surveys, it's like a quarterly surveys what we do, especially for that community. It could be women or it could be LGBTQ or some other communities. We do that survey specifically, that's an anonymous survey to check the health of the program, how things are going and what concerns are. And we have that open channel given in the company, and I have seen people are approaching that. Right. So that's the one thing I have seen working, especially like if any grievances, any problem, and thing. Then see, the problem is like culturally, like first of all, those things came late in our culture as acceptance level. And before that, it was not at all, like people are not seeing it that way, the way we look at it now. So that's what I said earlier, to give us still far from that comfort zone when we can look at these things like as a very normal in a day-to-day life, right? So a lot of education and taking feedback, I think that's the one way I have found it working pretty well. But as I said earlier too, it's still a long way to go before we really come out doing a specific measure post hiring somebody, onboarding. It could be retainership, it could be a performance side of it. A lot of things are there, because I could see leaders also have their views all the time, and many a time they think they are the expert and we are not. So that kind of a debate that takes the discussion to a different direction altogether.
Right. I think well covered, and that was Sweetie. I can so relate to what you said. Right. I mean, been worked with product organizations, and what I've seen and the way they portray it as well. So and that was the intent of specifically pulling out that measure as a topic, because I really wanted to hear our TA heads to speak on that and see what challenges they are facing in it, and are we still achieved a solution, or at least some of us have achieved some solution that we can look at from that perspective. Right? So thanks for those inputs. I think before we really close on here, that I see a question from Ritu which says, do you think D&I initiatives will take a backseat in COVID wave? In my personal opinion, definitely not. In fact, I see that organization, at least in my organization, I definitely see that people are gearing up, taking as this opportunity to see what can be the other innovative ways to look at, because now currently, to be very honest, the hiring is on a little slower side, at least in my place, not to what extent it used to be. And then people are taking this as an opportunity to see what ways to look at, be it D&I or be it any other initiative in that matter. And I see that with June Pride Month coming up, and with the 17th May which has happened, there are a lot of activities which we are internally doing, and we are trying to look at facilities, we are trying to look at a lot of other options to see what could be done and how we can make it better, be it from an hiring perspective, be it from an hiring from a counselor, or from an managers awareness perspective, or from a leadership programs that we can run, and so on and so forth. So I don't really see it as a probability to take a back seat, but open to hear from others on your thoughts and views, please.
I think from the COVID, there are a lot more unseen, unexperimented, and unknown benefits and learnings that came in picture. And in my personal opinion, it's not going to take a backseat at all. It might become more favorable in such scenario for that initiative. I think it's a big support, the kind of learning, but like working from home. Till March 23rd, we have been going, okay, fine, working from home more than 3 days in a week, it means like a performance, it's the downwards of the performance side of it, right? But this is not the case. Now we have learned the ways how to get this done efficiently, which could be requirement in certain communities under D&I inclusion, right? D&I initiatives, right? So I think this will give a much more bigger boost to this initiative, because now organizations have learned their ways, and even the leaders know what benefits, what extra benefit can be given, what extra flexibility can be given to the employees. I think it's a good learning from COVID, and I could see that's gonna be really helpful. But definitely from the hiring going down, I don't know how many of your organization gonna spend too much with the from the money perspective, from the dollars perspective, and doing a lot of initiative work and those things. I think that way you might see it might go down, but openness to acceptance of those flexibilities, I think that will that has increased because of the COVID, and thanks to COVID for that. That's the one reason I could say thanks to COVID for that.
Anyone else would want to add in before we really close? Yes,
Ritu, we'll have to give it a closer at 12:30.
Yes, we have 5 minutes, I thought, or rather 3 minutes. So I thought if anyone wants to add in, and then we can just make 2 minutes. All right. So I think anyone wants to add in, but otherwise, I thought it was definitely a great session.
I just want to kind of see, this is a kind of community, and everyone's views are actually pretty important, and there could be a community which is looking at this knowledge. So is there a way TA Dialogue and Smita can actually create a kind of a deck or something, right from how part of it, what part of it, and what could be the challenges, kind of a thing, because that will be a great support to the community that we can give it to, because we all know that we all work in talent acquisition, so there will be a lot of people who would want to understand this. If not, then they can actually start at level 1 instead of starting at level 0.
Sure.
I'm
Absolutely,
sure Vijay can look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. This recording will also be available, and besides that, your point is well taken. We will pick up that as well.
Great. I hope that the session was very informative and valuable. In fact, for me personally, it was definitely very insightful. It was really nice to see all of you virtually, talk to you guys, and get real good inputs and insights to my passionate topic, actually, diversity. So open for feedback. So Vijay, over to you.
No, yeah, thanks. So no, I think in the interest of time and to ensure that we stick to the broader timelines, I think for the session we'll give it a closer. If there is any question, any views, any points which have not been covered, and any of you want to bring to the table, you pass it over to either the TA Dialogues team or to me, and whoever you want to address it to, we will have that connect established. And thank you so much for sparing time.